It's been a long time since I've discussed a movie here under my porch. We've actually, changed my entire porch since the last time I did it. So welcome to Professor Sky's Spam channel, where I talk about anything that is not new music. Sometimes I talk about movies here under my porch, and I'm going to be talking about Cuckoo by Tillman Singer. First of all, spoilers. If you're watching, movie reviews without spoilers, that's cool, but, go see the movie. There's my review. So let's get into it. At the very end of the video, I'm going to read my daughter. She saw it, and then she got so into the movie that she made me see it with her, so that she could have someone to talk about. And she has a whole theory about how it's all secretly about Phil Spector. If you want that hot take, you have to stay through to the end. But that's her take, not mine. Why don't we start with mine? My hot take on this movie. You know, I looked through on YouTube, and basically all of the thumbnails are like, what? So bizarre. What's going on? Weirdest movie ever. This movie, it's simple. It's not that complicated. I can simplify the whole movie in one sentence. Teenage girl learns to love her half-sister. That's it. That's the whole movie. We can simplify it down to that because that's the emotional heart. And I think the reason why maybe people are getting confused is because they think it's, not a family drama. They think it's some kind of sci-fi thing, which it can be both, obviously, but it's really a family drama. And what makes the movie so great, now, first of all, the main thing that makes it great is something ineffable. Something where, if you've seen it, you kind of want to see it again. You were sort of frustrated the first time, you sort of got it, sort of didn't, but it created this world, and it created this sort of mystery. But I don't want to focus on the mystery of, what are the cuckoos, and how does it actually reproduce, and what is the ocarina of time the dude's playing, and how does that get people over here? No, do you want to know what the real mystery is of that movie? The real mystery? Why was I crying? Why was that scene at the end of the movie between the two sisters one of the most powerful scenes I've ever seen, especially in a horror movie? Why was I crying? The relationship between them wasn't even that well developed. At least there wasn't that much screen time. What was going on behind the scenes in this movie that it makes myself and my daughter and many other people who watch it lose it at that scene? YouTube movie critics love to just talk about, it didn't earn it. I'm sorry, I get mad at movie criticism because it's who are you to say what is earned and unearned? I don't care if it's earned or unearned. If it can evoke that kind of emotional reaction out of me, that is astounding. And it is absolutely mysterious. How did Tillman Singer do it? Okay, that's the real mystery to me, and I don't necessarily have an answer, except to say maybe it's personal, because obviously I have two kids with one wife, and now I have one, soon to be two kids with another, and they get along really well, and they're very close, and there's a lot of things to navigate. And when I started watching the movie, I was kind of pissed because I thought it was a whole anti-step family thing, and I'm just that's what the world needs: more anger at non-traditional families, more bunk about what's that term I like to use? Biological determinism. Okay, biological determinism is bunk. All right. Family is what you make it. Love is earned. You do not owe your parents duty and respect. They owe you. They have the duty towards you, okay? A whole bunch of complicated things. But the movie, I think that's probably why I cried. Because the whole time I'm watching the movie, I'm all wrapped up in it. Listen, I love horror movies. I've seen hundreds of horror movies. I disagree with the thesis and the meaning of 99.9% of those movies. Because they're usually just be normal, be heterosexual, be Christian, be whatever. It's just a whole bunch of normative horse hockey, but goddamn it, I can't help it. I love it. I love observing it. I love watching it. So I'm sitting here and I'm watching this movie. I'm like, is this going to be another one of these horror movies that I really like? But no, in the end, it is about the real nature of love, the real saving power of love. A teenage girl learns to love her half-sister. That's what the movie's about. And it's a powerful thing, and it's a powerful, meaningful thing. Now, what else makes this movie so good? It's that ability to be drawn back into it. Also, listen, if you've watched a lot of horror movies, it's very clear. It wears its influences on its sleeve, but it never quite feels too derivative. There's something very unheimlich, which is a German term coined, I believe, by Freud. so I guess Austrian, which means uncanny in English, but in German it actually translates directly to unhomelike. Like everything feels a little bit off. Now maybe that's the fact that it's a German movie and just little details. Just like the door handles being German door handles, not being American door handles. There's something about the feeling of everything that's just a little bit off. And all the great horror movies have that feeling. Rosemary's Baby obviously is a great kind of linchpin there. It's kind of a movie about women and birth and possession and bringing things into the world. I also think that Hostel is a pretty important touch point. I think Hostel is actually a really good movie. I mean, a lot of people like to trash on that, and they just put in that whole sort of torture porn category, but it's more than that. Hostel is actually a movie about imperialism. It's about colonial tourism. That's what Hostel is about. There's something about the sort of uneasiness in Europe and the distance and just the representation of Europe, though. I will say I really appreciate it just as an American who's trying to get people to learn French, trying to get people to be more international, the ease with which everything is so multilingual. You get a lot of Hitchcock, a lot of Psycho, the kind of the camera that twirls around the eyes and even some Rear Window in there as well, but obviously the biggest influence, I think, it has to be The Shining. Now, there's a couple of technical nerdlinger similarities that you'll see, especially the transitions, where it transitions and the other image appears underneath it. If you've ever seen Room 237, they go on and on and on and on and on and on about the importance of the transitions, but it does give that feeling. It does help to give that Undheimlich feeling. And the beginning of the movie, how it kind of starts, and we have that first scene, and then it cuts to the title, and then we have the scene of the countryside and that sense of isolation, the sense of being far away, the sense of being in a hotel, okay, the sense of feeling kind of haunted and ghostly, the sense of maybe there's some bad fathers all over the place, and that goes into like what makes it so great is that it makes you conspiratorial. You're like, who's in on it? Is the dad in on it? Is the dad in on it? Is the dad friends with evil German guy who's coordinating this whole thing? I don't know. Was this all planned? Is he part of the plan or is he a victim? Is the wife a part of the plan? I don't think so. What happens to her at the end? What happens to her at the end? Hey, what happens to the two guys who shoot each other? We don't see a body. I've watched horror movies before. Do you know what it means when you don't see a body? It means they're not dead. Do you know what it means when you do see a body? It means they're not dead if they're planning on making another movie. We don't know what's going on with these guys. How many cuckoos are there? How many cuckoos? What's a full-fledged cuckoo? What's a baby cuckoo? How does it exactly work? And that's where people get wrapped up in, and I personally think it doesn't necessarily matter. Hunter Schafer. First of all, I'd never seen anything she's been in, so I'm super happy to get to know her through this. There is the interesting question that I think her transness is fascinating because it is never, and I'm not the person to discuss this. I hope, please tell me in the comments, and I'll include a link to it in my description if you point me in the right direction. I assume there are trans creators or maybe women in gender studies, people who can help me out here, full studies on her role in this movie. But is it mentioned when she's making out? Frankly, though, she's 17 years old, so that old French lady was making out with her. I guess it's legal in Germany, so what are you gonna do? Drake rules. When she's making out, I thought she said you're growing, which I assumed meant like an erection, but maybe the term is you're going. And then either way, either the character is not meant to be trans, and that's great because that shows that our society is evolving and we are able to fully accept and appreciate that biological determinism is bunk, okay? It's bunk when someone tries to tell you the importance of family exclusively along the lines of blood, and it's bunk when it comes to gender and sex, okay? So let's just appreciate that. Or she is, in which case the whole movie has a different take because was she impregnated? Can she be impregnated by the cuckoos, right? These are all the kinds of questions, and this is why I bring it back to The Shining. And I don't know, time will tell, okay? I mean, it's not Kubrick, okay? It's not Kubrick. So we're not going to spend the next 40, 50 years trying to figure out this movie and breaking it down every single second. But I'm telling you one thing, we could. It's oddly close to being able to do that. The other thing about this movie that makes it so great is the music. These original songs, which unheimlich, okay, uncanny. You feel like, oh no, I know this song. I've heard this song before. This is by that like band. They came out like in the early 2000s, but they were trying to sound like the 80s, but they were kind of goth. And I think, were they like, did they tour with Covenant? I think that, no, it's all made up for the album. It's all made up for the movie, and it's great. It's perfect. What? How many? Tell me in the comments. How many movies have a soundtrack with like diegetic, like diegetic music written for the movie that's not a musical about a music band? It's awesome. It's perfect. It's like they needed some kind of needle drop music and diegetic music, and they just created it themselves. The first thing I thought of, and this is going to lead to the end theory, the first song that you hear when she's on her bed playing bass. Also, you just gotta love the bass player. You gotta love all the mystery of like the mother and how did the mother die, and the friend's band. There's so many mysteries to unspool in this. So many mysteries. If you are paying attention to music, the first thing you hear is this. Dum, 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 ksh, dum, 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 ksh, which everybody knows. That's the Be My Baby drum line. And so I was sitting there, my daughter was watching it the second time, and I was watching it the first time, and I go, that's the Be My Baby drum line. And my daughter says to me, I know, I think the whole movie is about Phil Spector. I said, what do you mean? And she said, oh, well, and then she starts talking about it, and then I said, just tell me later, okay? So listen, she really wanted to be on the video, but she's 16. I'm not gonna put internet fame on anybody. Internet fame is hard enough to handle when you're 46, much less when you're 16. So I'm just going to read her theory that she's written out here, okay? She initially describes that she learned about this by a song called The Christmas Kids by a band named Roar. So that's part of the idea, I guess. I don't know. She wants me to listen to that song. I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to go to this idea, all right? I think if you are musically literate, this boom, 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 ksh, should get you thinking about Be My Baby by the Ronettes, should get you thinking about Phil Spector's production. If you don't know anything about Phil Spector, he was a goddamn genius and a complete monster, okay? He created the wall of sound. He was the primary influence on the Beach Boys, and therefore the primary influence on all of your best produced music that's ever been made. He had this way of producing, and he was also a complete and total Pygmalion, in the worst possible sense. Pygmalion is the myth of the sculptor who made a woman out of marble and then fell in love with her and then kind of controlled her, right? So the best example was the Ronettes, who were called that because there's all, anyways. He would, like, Ronnie Spector was one of his wives. He also is probably a murderer, by the way, so super bad guy. And this was the thing that she was fascinated about, that my daughter was fascinated about, because Ronnie Spector was trapped. She was trapped by Phil Spector, who would like adopt these kids and get her attached to them and then threaten to take them away if she ever left her. Okay? So, I'll start reading this here. Okay. This is actually not very well organized. You know, listen, I'm very proud of this theory, but okay. Phil Spector and German guy. Both men are obsessed with preserving something that they perceive of as perfection. Phil and German guy are more about them gaining control rather than the well-being of the people they obsess over. Fair commentary. While I do think the hooded lady is the main object of the German's obsession, however, I also think he is just obsessed with any and all cuckoos, as well as just any women that come into his life, guests, friends, etc. That's true. He's a super creepazoid. He's a creepazoid with everybody. He's a creepazoid with Gretchen, with Hunter's character, right? He's a creepazoid with all the girls and all the women in this whole movie. Being trapped. Very similar to The Shining. There's a very... I need to teach her how to spell claustrophobic. Claustrophobic vibe. The concept is that Gretchen is stuck there being drilled in. Also, being in a time loop is trapped, as a loop is obviously another thing that creates the claustrophobic feel. Phil Spector would do anything, including like hiding shoes, and emotionally manipulate his partners. A whole bunch of other stuff here about like Spector's kids named Louise and Louise here. I don't know. I think she's going a little too far here. But I like this right here. Both the German guy and Phil Spector use children as a way to trap the women in their lives, Ronnie and the hooded lady. So in this theory, the hooded lady, the main cuckoo, the mama cuckoo, the main cuckoo at the end, is a surrogate for, it represents that. Okay. Both the German guy and Phil Spector, okay. The German guy also forces the people who work for him to make their wives, girlfriends have kids when, even if they don't want to further trap them. Ronnie and the hooded lady, honestly pushing it again, but the cuckoo is dressed very retro, not exactly 60s like Ronnie, but definitely late 60s. Also from the theme, the decor from the hotel is very 60s. So there you go. I don't know. I like the theory. Let me tell you what I like. I like that I'm raising my daughter to watch horror movies and make theories this far out there. Do you agree with any of them? Why did you cry? What did you think of this movie? What's up with my spam channel, huh? How many videos? It seems like I'm gonna do, I jump on here and I do like 5 videos in a month, and then I don't do it for like another year. But that's all right. This channel's not even monetized. I can just do whatever I want. Oh yeah, there's the camera.